the first thing that people need to understand, and certainly people new to this, is that current events are not random, and events, world-changing events going back are not random. You have a script, and the script has an agenda for the world leading to its desired outcome, which is total global control of every man, woman, and child, not least by controlling their minds and controlling their thoughts, thus controlling their behavior. That's where it's meant to go. And I came across this in the very early 90s. And I have this phrase, know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you don't know what the outcome is planned to be, then events can look very random and very in and of themselves. But once you know what the outcome is planned to be, those same random events suddenly become very clear stepping stones, what I call the totalitarian tiptoe to that outcome. And over the years, I've been saying, if you want to know what's planned for the West tomorrow, then look at China today. What we have is what I call a global cult. It's a global network of secret societies, ultimately. And even that's fiercely compartmentalized. So most people in secret societies have no idea what the real core is planning and what it's all about. But this network of secret societies does not have borders. You can forget countries. That's why we're seeing the same thing happening everywhere, because there are no borders. They're for public consumption. And thus, when you see America and Europe and Australia and you see China, the general population sees different countries and different cultures in terms of China and the rest anyway. But the cult doesn't. The cult has the world as its country. And so China, far from being antagonistic to the West, except on the surface, is actually a very key part of this global cult. And so this cult was behind the Mao Revolution in China. And the plan was to create a closed society, which it was and still is to a very large extent, but for a long time, absolutely closed, so that they could incubate a system of human control, not least based on technology, that would eventually be played out across the world. So if you look at how China has developed, it's developed in exactly that way. There are millions of cameras in every Chinese city, town and city, and they are tracking people in real time. I've seen documentaries where someone's gone out on the street and these Chinese officials have been trying to show off how clever they are, and they've shown that they can find them in minutes through this technological surveillance. And so then you go to the next stage where China used this real-time surveillance to create what they call the social credit system, which is if you do and act and behave, and AI is monitoring you all the time, the way the government, the system, the cult ultimately wants, then you get credits. And if you don't, then those credits are taken away. And you reach a point where you can't travel on trains and you can't travel on aircraft, and you can't basically have what we call any kind of normal life. Authority's power is the power we give to it in the form of acquiescence. And when we take that back, refuse to give it away, we'll see where the real power is, and it's not with authority. How can the tiny comparative number of people who've driven the world from where it was to where it is in 2 years, how can they do that to getting on for 8 billion people? They can't without the acquiescence of most of the 8 billion. The power's with us, but a lot of people, they don't want to hear this, because it means they have to stand up and they have to stiffen their backbone, they have to grow a pair, and actually express what they can see in refusing to cooperate with it. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Well, we have to do that. We can see now that just seeing it is not enough, never was. And we have to stop cooperating with it on a massive global scale. But when I look at the world now, compared with how it was then, in terms of people being awake to at least aspects of the fact the world's not like they thought it was, the numbers now are phenomenal. I mean, you know, over this 32 years, the great vast majority of it has been trying to get people to just listen and to give me an opportunity to present the information. The challenge now is finding the time to do all that I do and talk to people who want to hear what I've got to say about what's going on. The challenge now is coping with the interest, as opposed to most of the last 32 years, which was about trying to generate the interest. So there has been a shift. And one of the interesting things I've found is that some of the really far out stuff, well, far out from the perceived normal anyway, that I wrote about in 1997, 2001, people are becoming more and more open to that, because they've come into 2020 in the January. And if you'd have said to them then, this is what the world's going to be like at the end of 2021, they'd have laughed at you. They'd have ridiculed you. I'm used to that, but they would have laughed at you. By keeping the target population in a smaller box of knowledge than they're in. And this is the reason for the secret society network. What is that for? It's to keep secrets from the target population. And these are the secrets of where the world's going, so that the population think that events are random and not actually very carefully planned. And also they keep from us the nature of reality, the true nature of who we are, and the nature of this reality that we're experiencing. They don't want us to know that. They don't want us to know that our perception of reality becomes our experienced reality. Because with that knowledge, and that knowledge not being known by the great majority of the population, they know that if they can manipulate our perception, not least by controlling information, which is where all the censorship comes in, they will, through control of perception, dictate our experienced reality. So a little me perception becomes a little me experience live. And little me people, of course, presenter people, as I call them, they're a doddle to manipulate and direct it in the way that you want. The symbol that this cult has, one of its major symbols, it's got a whole symbolic language that I expose in the books. One of the major symbols is the all-seeing eye. Like you see on the dollar bill, the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. That's the all-seeing eye on top of the pyramid of control, which is what we're looking at. It's a pyramid of top-down imposition. But that all-seeing eye, that single eye, is very, very appropriate, because of the phrase, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. They are the one-eyed man. They're not the two-eyed, third-eyed man. They are the one-eyed man. But to control the population, they've had to make the population blind. And they are in a constant state of terror and insecurity, because they know that when humanity wakes up in ever greater numbers, its game is over, because it doesn't have that power. It's a one-eyed man. Humans have the potential to be two-eyed, three-eyed people.